تحتوي لبنة بوك على حليب، قشطة، رشة ملح، مادة تخمير طبيعية، وبدون إضافات أو مواد حافظة. خلي الصباح أحلى مع لبنة بوك اللذيذة.
Love can lead to overprotection. Aronamin C. Supporting unity. Make protection delicious.
Likey.
I have the pleasure of introducing to the conference the keynote speaker for today. He is an American astrophysicist, cosmologist, planetary scientist, author, and science communicator. He hosted the television series Cosmos, A Space-Time Odyssey, a successor to Carl Sagan's 1980 series, Cosmos, A Personal Voyage. In 2017, he received the Stephen Hawking Medal for Science Communication, becoming the first American scientist to earn the prestigious award. We have the privilege of announcing Dr. Neil Tyson to our conference and welcoming him graciously to present his keynote speech, Finding and Nurturing Genius.
Well, thank you for that warm introduction, and to all those locally and around the world who are tuned in. Perhaps one day we can all do this in person again, but fortunately, because of technology and brilliant people who have enabled that technology, brilliant scientists, technologists, engineers, we can still hold this conference. I'm an astrophysicist, so I think about the world, I think about who can contribute to our understanding of the world, and I'd like to begin with my title slide, Finding and Nurturing Genius, and for this global conference on giftedness and creativity. I was intrigued by one of your videos, and this frame from the video, I figured if one is a part of the whole Mohima culture, maybe one day I would get to levitate words in the air as well. This was quite a talent. But let me just show that this brief clip that includes that screen capture. So here it is.
STEM for all. Therefore, its programs serve all students from first grade onwards. Some programs are dedicated for students who have been identified through the National Program for Gifted Identification, while other programs target all students.
People from all ages across the first grade up through 12th grade and a little bit beyond. But in there was a quote. There are two quotes. Here's how she ended it. So one of them is, some programs are dedicated for students who have been identified through the National Program for Gifted Identification. Okay? So that would be some system of tests and observations. And then other programs target all students. that's good. So no one's going to get left behind. However, what it says is that there will be some students who will not benefit from all the programs because they didn't score high enough or perform well enough in that system of gifted identification. And so what I want to do is I want to think about the all students part of this effort and what that would mean. If you're thinking that you're going to get everybody, how sure are we that you're going to identify everyone? Okay, so let's take a look. So we can ask the question, are geniuses born? In which case, if they'd be gifted, right? If you're just born with it, a gift is something you didn't necessarily earn, it's just sort of gifted to you. Or a genius is made, right? Which would imply that they're cultivated. So, and what is a genius? All right, this word is bandied about often. And so I want to sort of put some focus on what we think of in practice when we speak of someone being a genius or not. And so let me just start out with the famous or infamous bell curve. This is a bell curve for IQ scores. And basically almost anything we measure humans that have a scale of values will distribute into a curve like this. And it's deep, but it's simple. Notice that right in the middle, this is basically it's a curve. It's a smooth histogram. Most people are average. And in an IQ system, that average is defined at 100. So you can see it peaks there at 100. And some people have less than average, and some people have higher than average scores on an IQ test. And practically any test you administer will have this kind of distribution. I'm choosing IQ because it's perhaps the most famous among exams. But everyone will spread in this way. And so when we think of genius, we're thinking of people who are way off on the tail, on the high end of this. They're rare in the population. And if it's a test for you how smart you are, then we're all going to look to those people to solve all our problems, okay, typically, all right? So IQ's been around for more than 100 years as a concept. And if we go back in time, what people did was, let's look at the labels they assigned each of these categories. Let's go way back, 100 years ago to 1928. And here's a range of scores. So look in the middle of that table, from 95 to 104. That encloses the IQ of 100, so that's average. And you go above that, they call it bright, very bright, superior, very superior, precocious. This was originally conceived for children. And the Q in IQ stands for quotient. So a quotient is a division, it's a divisor. So if you were a 10-year-old child and you had the mind of a 15-year-old child, they would divide the 15 by 10. You get 1.5, multiply that by 100, you get 150. So that'd be a very smart 10-year-old child. So a very precocious, a 10-year-old child would have the test scores of a 17-year-old. So that's how a lot of this began. Now we go below average, and we say these are labels now that were officially assigned people who got these scores. Dull, right? Borderline, morons, imbeciles, and idiots. Okay, so 100 years ago, those words entered our vocabulary as labels to describe people who did not do well on these exams. And so what concerns me only is that if you are labeled, labels have power. They have power to empower you, but they also have the power to discourage you when you might have otherwise had interest and energy to perform. Here's one of the questions from back then. Fortunately, these kinds of questions are no longer common, but one of the questions they would ask in the early test was, these are asked of children now, in each of these three pairs of drawings, pick the pretty woman, okay? And if you picked the pretty woman, there was a correct answer and an incorrect answer, and that you would judge to be paying attention to the world and to society. Okay, so we're long past that now. The questions are less sociologically conceived. There's one of spatial reasoning. All right. This one, I don't know that you can learn this in a book. This might be more innate. There's a cutout of what would be a cube. And if you did cut that out, which of the 4 cubes below would you get? And there's only one correct answer there. And there's no value judgment. There's no, it doesn't really matter how many countries you've been to. So that's where it is now. And we have a modern system of labels where they've gotten rid of the idiot, imbecile, and moron. So this is in 2009, for example. And right in the middle there, again, is average from 90 to 109. And we go below that, it says low average, borderline impaired, mildly impaired, moderately impaired, okay? But let's go above average, and we see here, high average, superior, above 130 is gifted, first appearance of that word, gifted, we see that. Or very advanced, and then above 144 in this scaling, very gifted. Okay, so now the label shows up. So you can ask, if I get a score of 125, am I gifted? Will a system that's finding gifted people find me or care about me? That's even more importantly. But I still have what's called a superior IQ. And by the way, like I said, any test will have some way of spreading people out, and somebody's going to make a cutoff, as what has happened here. So let me just talk about correlation, because why would you test people to try to identify what's gifted? Because your expectation is that if you're gifted, designated as gifted, the society will expect you to excel in some other thing that matters. Okay? Because the test scores and other things, they're just preamble for what you might do later in life. Okay? So the expectation is that it correlates with future behavior that society cares about and values. So let's just spend a moment going over correlation. There's something called correlation coefficient, the letter R, and it can range from -1 to 1. So this is a correlation of 2 variables that are correlated by nearly -1. So what it means is as your horizontal axis goes up, your vertical axis drops perfectly. They're in perfect correlation, but it's a negative correlation, okay? So that would be in the negative values. And then, as you might expect, you can have 0 correlation, where one variable doesn't really predict the other variable. It's scattered. Knowing one quantity does not tell you the other quantity, okay, with any precision. And then a perfect correlation of +1. If you change one variable, the other changes in a positive direction, and then knowing one tells you the other. Okay. So what we're after here is if you can have a program to identify gifted people, you're going to expect that correlates with something that they're going to do down the line. Okay, so exams, IQ exams and similar exams and other sort of efforts to identify genius and gifted people, they tend to correlate with academic performance, okay? But you can ask, what level do they correlate? Okay, the correlation coefficient is between 0.5, and depending on the test and depending on the variables, you'll find the correlation in that range, typically. So that's better than 0, not quite the perfect +1, but okay, there's something there. So let's take the higher end of that and see what that correlation plot would look like, all right? Because any data that correlates at 0.7 will look statistically the same. You'll have the same spread of data. So let's look at just a statistical map of 2 variables that correlate at a value of 0.7. So there it is. And so what I want to call your attention to is that there's still scatter there. This is the higher end of that range. There's still scatter. And that scatter, if you take a look at that, it means if I have a certain value in one axis, you can ask, how well do I know how good you're going to be on the other axis? There's still a huge range. There will be people you will expect to perform and don't, people who you expect to perform and will in this other axis. And so let's look at some examples here, some interesting examples.
I don't know internationally. I think she's well known internationally, but in the United States, for a period of time, this woman was very well known, Marilyn Vos Savant. Why? Because for a period of time there, she had the highest IQ in the world and was in the Guinness Book of World Records for it. Okay? And IQ has variance when you test at different times. She would variously come out slightly below, slightly above an IQ of 200. That's why I have the squiggly line there. It's about 200. Brilliant in the world. In the world. So you can ask her to put her in the lab, have her find cures for cancer and Alzheimer's and vaccines, and this is where you might force her. But if that's not her interest, if that's not her motivation, she might do something else. And in fact, she does something else. What does she do? She is a columnist for a weekly, very popular weekly magazine in the United States called Parade. And the name of her column is Ask Marilyn. Ask Marilyn. And people would write in with questions. Sometimes they try to stump her with a clever puzzle, or she would try to stump them back, or ask for advice on living or on thinking. So it has value, but is this what you would have expected of someone with an IQ of 200 coming out of some system that's identifying gifted people? Let's look at another person. We've got here someone named Richard Feynman, okay? It's widely published that his IQ is 125, much less than that of Marilyn Vos Savant. It was still in the superior range of that last list of categories, but not quite in the gifted range. So Richard Feynman, if you don't know who he is, I'll tell you, okay? He was a professor of physics at the California Institute of Technology, better known as Caltech. He was a pioneer of merging quantum physics and electromagnetism into a new branch of physics called quantum electrodynamics, and he won the Nobel Prize in 1965. So, would he have been identified? Does he go below some cutoff? So, here he is, right there on that scale. And if you look, how many people have that IQ or less? It might be about 90%. So, he'd be 1 in 10 out of people in the world, okay? But that gifted cutoff was like at about 130 and above. Where is Marilyn Vos Savant? Can you even see it on this? It's off scale. It's off. Figure out where 200 is on that plot. It's off scale, okay? So I just ask, would we have missed Richard Feynman in a program specially designed to get the best people? The best people. And so I don't care that you get everyone who you expect, because sometimes you don't know. But how about the people who you don't expect for whatever reason? And that's my biggest point of interest here. Now here's another set of people. You may recognize most of them, if not all of them. I have their names. Let me drop their names down on them. So there they go. These are very accomplished people. Okay, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, co-founder of Microsoft, Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple Computer. They're about the same age, by the way, both influenced by the space program. We were landing on the moon when they were 12 and 11 and 13 years old. So Michael Dell, the founder of Dell Computers. Walt Disney needs no introduction. Lady Gaga, very highly successful performer, singer, and James Cameron, one of the world's greatest film directors. Do you know what they all have in common? None of them graduated college. They either dropped out of college or never went to college at all. So if we know that these exams that are looking for your intelligence, whether it's an IQ exam or any other exam, correlate with academic performance, and I have this set of people who are not just doing well in spite of not going to college, they're doing well even among everyone who did go to college. So, and let me just highlight pull up two examples, okay? James Cameron, right? He went to a community college. That's a 2-year college that sort of supposed to prepare you to go to a full 4-year college. And then he dropped out at age 20. worked odd jobs. At one time was a truck driver and a janitor. But he wrote a lot in his free time. If you're observing him, would you notice, oh, he's got free time. Is he going to the amusement park? No, he's writing. Is someone there to notice that about him? Or are you being distracted by the fact that he's not doing well in school and he's driving a truck and sweeping floors? That's a question I pose to all of us. Let's take one. Let's go back and see who else. Oh, no, so sorry. Here's the full resume, right? These are significant movies. Terminator, The Abyss, Titanic, Avatar. Avatar infuses science, the science of undersea worlds with the science of planets and space exploration to tell a fantastic story about a culture and a clash of cultures and values. And the Titanic, he's big into the undersea world. I don't know if you know, but he was in the vessel that discovered the Titanic underwater. And then he filmed it and used that information to inform what the Titanic looked like in his film. Okay? So highly accomplished. And so I'm just saying that, one other thing, excuse me. Again, it's not just did okay for not having gone to college. He did okay no matter who we're talking about here. Highest grossing movies of all time, adjusted for inflation. He is number 2 and 3 behind Gone with the Wind. Okay. Would someone have noticed him? I don't know. Let's go to another, okay? Just one more example here. Here we go. Richard Branson. Now let's take a look at him. He has dyslexia. Performed poorly in school, okay? And on the last day of his high school, his headmaster, okay, Robert Drayson, told him he'd either end up in prison or be a millionaire, okay? So what do you do with someone like that? So let's look at his resume, and here it is, okay? He started his first business venture at age 16. Okay, he founded a magazine. Then he set up a mail order catalog, Virgin Records, and a stream of stores in 1972. Then he started an entire airline. Then he was knighted by the Queen in 2000. And then he founded Virgin Galactic, which has to invent a new kind of plane that can fly through the air and then go suborbital for tourist trips. So he's helping the world advance our space frontier. Oh, and by the way, when did he open Virgin Records, a series of record stores? 1972. When was he born? I don't know if it's cut off on your screen. It is on mine. He was born in 1950. He was 22 years old when he did that. So when the headmaster said he'll either be in prison or be a millionaire, by the way, he became a billionaire. But what was the headmaster noticing? Is there something where he could have said, let's nurture this person? Or did he have to go out and nurture himself? Okay? So just some things to know. So we have to ask, what kind of characteristics matter? So I love this Venn diagram, the Mohiba Venn diagram. It knows that it's not just going to be an exam score or something. There are other factors here. All right? Mental flexibility, I love it. Passion, of course. And grit, sort of a new modern concept. Can you recover from failure? All right? What is everybody in that frame, they all had grit for sure. Okay? But what I want to do is I want to expand that or find some nuances. Now, I've thought a lot about this. And so here's some pillars of success I want to share. I think knowledge, of course, matters. You want to learn what is known. Very important. But is it all that you need? You want curiosity to explore what is unknown. And maybe it's not good enough just to know what's known. That means you're a bookworm. You read encyclopedias. You know stuff. But curiosity takes you to new places, exploring the unknown. You want to be able to solve problems. What good is it if you just know stuff and just like poking things? You need somebody who's going to find answers in there. Problem solving. Imagination. You have to think the way no one else has thought before. And most of the time, it's the opposite of the way people have thought before. And typically, you get resistance to that. Okay, so, and what perseverance. You don't want to give up. Okay, that's related to recovery from failure, and that's a little bit of grit. Again, in my screen, it's chopped off, but at the end there is the word grit. So, And what I do, I combine all of these, and I have one word that says all of that. And for me, that word is ambition. It's you where you are, but there's a place you want to be, and you want to try to find a path to it, like no matter what. So let's go through each of these individually and give some examples. How about knowledge? People who have knowledge, they're generally considered smart. They know things. No one is going to not call somebody who knows things smart. Okay? We have a place in the United States where being smart was valued. There was a game show called Jeopardy! Jeopardy is a game show where smart people compete for money. Very sad to learn. Alex Trebek, the host of Jeopardy since 1984, died yesterday. Pancreatic cancer. It was expected after he was diagnosed. Just a tip. Jeopardy. Let's take a look at what Jeopardy is. It's 3 contestants, and they're asked questions about knowledge. Okay? So is that good enough? I think you might need more. What they did was IBM created a computer called Watson, which has access to the entire internet, and it actually also has good language skills. So they competed the 2 best Jeopardy players ever against Watson. And Watson wiped the floor with these other 2 Jeopardy contestants. And maybe that's an American expression, wipe the floor with them. Watson beat them badly. Take a look at those scores, how much money you have earned. And so knowledge, if it's just access to information, we can now do that in a search. So maybe you need more than that if you want to change the world. Just maybe. Maybe you need more. How about curiosity? Curiosity. So, all children are curious. Problem is when adults lose that curiosity later on. I think we're not getting audio here, but that's fine. This is a little girl standing in a puddle trying to get her father to join her, and he's reluctant, as you'd expect. But just check this out. We don't need the sound. Just watch the gesturing here. This is so. You know, that's the last thing that father wanted to do was get his feet not just wet, but muddy wet. And so this is a little girl who is enjoying the curiosity. What is that puddle? What's it made of? And for me, I think of her as doing experiments in fluid dynamics. That's what's going on there. Will you look for that in children? What kind of curiosity do they have? How is it aligned with discovery and the world? And so I keep an eye on her. How about problem solving? Problem solving. Clearly this matters. I'm going to give an example. It's a little bit contrived, but let's say I'm an architect and I want to hire an intern over the summer, and I have 2 candidates that basically are the same. They look the same in their resume. So now I need to interview each one. Okay? So it's a contrived example, but here we go. So I look out my window, and I look out my window, and there's a mosque. Okay? And it's a contrived example, but here I go. I say, how tall is that minaret out there? Okay? And one candidate says, oh, I know exactly. It's 35 meters tall. 35 meters. And